Hi, all chess goodies, and welcome to day 22 of my journey to top 100 in the world. But since it's the series to top 100 in the world, I would like to climb up, but actually the opposite is happening. I dropped out of the top 2000 again. So let's see if I can get back today. So yeah, already searching for a player. Let's see where we get when we get a pairing. When we get an opponent. It's already taking some time, and yeah, so I might just use this time to maybe just say, if you are watching this afterwards, you might already see that it's not that long of a stream. I'll just say I'll play just one game. It will be either win or loss or a draw. Only these three results possible. But yeah, I'll play just one game because I feel quite tired I just feel tired really, and yeah, that's basically it. I gotta rest. I don't wanna, but I don't wanna break the series. So yeah, just one game. So knight to f6. Try to win that game at least. Even though to play chess when you're tired, it's not a good thing usually. You can miss more things. But let's see if pawn to c3 or knight d7. Actually, pawn to c3. So I can play this queen to b6 line that I even made a video about it. How to sort of play against London system with this setup, with these moves. And okay, queen c1 is a possibility, but now I should just be better. Queen c3 is the main line. Not c3, b3. But yeah, queen c1 defends the pawn, but it is passive. So now that means that I can do more things. So for example, where do I develop this bishop? I could also maybe just chase after that bishop. I mean, there are a lot of options. I'll play h3. I was thinking about g6 and putting the bishop on g7. Okay, bishop d3 first, so now I actually cannot play bishop f5. That was my plan. But I should be able to go at least for the knight to h5 to win that bishop. And I'll have a bishop pair. My queen is better than my opponent's, so that's good. I mean, maybe h6 was not the most accurate continuation. I'm not really sure. I basically ended the theory with queen c1 and you're better as black because the main line and the main complications comes after queen to b3. So that means that, I mean, I should still be pretty fine in this position. Nothing's too serious. Yes, h6 with the idea of bishop f5 or did not really take into consideration the simple bishop d3 move. Because if I would go for bishop f5 first, it was better, but then knight to h4 with a similar idea. So that's why often in the London system, white actually does this a lot, that you'll play pawn to h3 to create a square for the bishop if this knight attacks happens. But here comes the capture. I think I'll just recapture with the queen because the queen was under attack. That was the main issue, I would say. Okay, but here I think I'll just happily grab the bishop. And now I have 2 pawns in the center, my opponent has none. But there are 2 open lines against my king at the moment. I hope that changes soon. So how do I develop the bishop pair? I don't want to close this bishop with pawn 3-6, but I feel like it's gonna be a bit necessary because bishop to g4, while possible, didn't look too appealing to me. And yeah, I need to develop the king side and get the king out of the center. Because as I was saying, white has no pawns in the center, but that means open lines for the rooks. And the queen as well, but yeah, mainly for the rooks. You would say it that way. Okay, so knight to b3, so knight is coming to d4 for sure. My queen is attacked. I'll just drop it back to b6 where it is pretty active. Controls this diagonal, ties the queen down to the b3 pawn a bit. Because this knight is likely to move to d4 at some point. I wonder if knight to d4, if I would actually trade the knight once or not. But at the moment I don't have to think about it as much. Queen comes to d2, where it is more active, and rook d1 is possible now. So what are my plans here? Actually, a pretty reasonable plan could be to strike with the a-pawn. My pawn structure in the center is pretty solid. It can be interrupted by pawn to f5. But I think it shouldn't be too serious. Or too bad. Or too big of a threat. Because the bishop is defended there. Even though it might not be if I decide to trade. But I think there is no need in doing that. Maybe even no point. I got the bishop here, but this bishop is stuck behind the pawns, as I was saying. So I would really like to activate it somehow. Now f5 is actually supported a lot of times. So f5 is an option. Okay, so if f5 is coming, then my opponent will get an advantage most likely. So do I need to develop the bishop? I don't think so. If e-file will open up, I wanna have the rook there. You know, it's not connected yet, so even some pins on the bishops are quite threatening. But yeah, I plan on grabbing and then probably even trading the bishop even if the knight takes. I know I would give up the bishop pair and I would not even use it. But you can see this pressure on the bishop, which is currently pinned because the rook is undefended. This knight is pretty strong there. This bishop is not really doing much at the moment. So I think I will take. I wanted to keep the bishop pair for longer, but yeah, I decided to play it this way. So that means we got opposite colored bishops, which in the endgame tends to be really drawish, but in the middle game is really sharp. It is like really sharp, and that is because Your opponent cannot defend on the color complex of your bishop, or it is really hard. So if you're on the attacking side, you are really in a good shape in that game, or in the position. Okay, I can play bishop c5, and it should not hang the d5 pawn, because I'm also putting pressure on the f2 pawn. Also supporting pawn to d4, which would be great to get rid of this isolated d pawn, which is now more of a weakness than some sort of a strong pawn in the center. I would just say that in this particular position it is a weakness, so I would like to get rid of it. But even though the opposite colored bishops are really sharp in the endgame, well, not the endgame, the middle game, even if you lose like 2 pawns and you are able to get it into the opposite colored bishop endgame, then you have pretty good chance of actually just drawing the game. Bishop goes back to b1. The idea is to probably set up this simple checkmating battery and see what I will come up with. And it's actually not that easy to deal with that, as I was saying, because I simply don't have the light square bishop anymore. So I think that I could go back to e7 with the knight and then go to g6 to try to defend that way. Because g6 feels too weakening. It's an obvious defense against the checkmate threat, but it feels really weakening. This is actually quite smart. Now my knight is pinned. I think king f8 should do the job. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't think so. If I play knight g6, it should be fine. And okay, my opponent goes for that. So now knight to g6, blocking the queen infiltration. And we might see a lot of trades actually. And we do. Okay, actually this pawn was hanging, didn't even notice. I was just focused on the king side. And that was it. So where do I hide the king? I'll slide it back to f8. I quite like it there. But I don't like that trade as much. I meant the bishop captures on g6, but that did not happen. Now I gotta do something with the queen and set up the pieces in a reversed order, probably. So that means like queen f6. And maybe just building the same sort of pressure, even though against the f2 pawn is not as strong. Queen goes here. So my opponent wants to get a queen trade, which honestly might be quite beneficial. This pawn is hanging. I think I just gotta go for it and try to trade the knights and get a draw. Okay, I'll go here to attack the bishop. But the goal is now to trade the knights, and then it should be a draw. But until I manage to do that, it's just not a draw. So that's quite about that. Might expect bishop to b5, I was gonna say, to prevent king e8 maybe. But no, we are both bringing our king to center. There comes the attack. I'll just slide bishop back to a7. Now this king is pretty nice on d6. And I'll try to remaneuver the knight to e5. And do I want to take? I do not. And I gotta take care of that square. This is not so easy. But actually I can just take, because then I attack 2 pawns. So it is perfectly fine. And I might even start getting ambitious in this endgame, because these pawns are untouchable by the bishop. These two are, but it should not be that hard to defend them. And this knight might overpower the bishop here. The question is about the clock. Once more in this series, like I would not mention it in every single video or stream. Okay, I'll take that. Then go back to e6. So now I might try to go for the pawn like that. And actually b6 would be pretty nice to get in. It would be really good. And is it allowed? I don't know. Where do I move the knight? Okay, I'll go to c7. And now pawn to b6. Now it's getting pretty tense. I think I can go for the endgame. I think I can. I'm not 100% sure. I'm definitely not. It seems like it's gonna be crazy queen endgame. Okay, maybe not. Oh wow. This actually is not good. Because my opponent will definitely have more tempos. And there it is. I just have to go back. And there is nothing I can do. And actually there is another tempi. And I'm losing this. Can just resign and okay. That's it for today. I lost another game. To drop even lower, but honestly I was quite expecting that, because I'm just really tired and it's not a good idea to play chess like that, but I didn't want to break the series, so yeah, I made it anyway. And here it is. Not an amazing game, just I might just take a look when it went wrong. Okay, here it's already better. And yeah, this was a mistake. I thought that the king and pawn endgame was fine, but yeah, actually with pawn to g5, it should be a draw. Okay, I think I'll have to take that. And yeah, that is for today. And yeah, basically that's it. See you tomorrow. But I can promise that tomorrow there will be more games. I'll be in a better shape, even though so far it didn't mean much. But I will have more hopes in tomorrow than I had today.